and welcome to a new episode of How Did You Show. Today, my guest is our wonderful Daniel Duffield from a Kove property, which is going to share with us today how did he got his first deal packaging deal. But I'm going to leave it to Daniel to introduce himself and tell us a bit more about him. Hi, Daniel, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Lenka. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much for coming. Can you tell us a little bit more about who is Daniel and a bit more about your company for those who don't know you?
Yeah, of course. So my background is actually architectural. I started in practice when I was of work experience when I was 16. So I'm now 30. So I've been in the industry a long time, on and off kind of in practice, doing my masters and various other courses. So I kind of specialised I've been involved in property and specialised in property for a long time. Just kind of the other side in the architectural department. So working on kind of all sorts of, from small residential projects to large ones, really. So like extensions, loft conversions, flip projects, all the way to footballers' houses, to master planning projects for some of the big house builders like Miller Homes, Bellway Homes, doing like 200 house schemes. Like urban design type stuff, so it's quite a range, and I've kind of been when in the past I'd worked with developers quite a lot, kind of taking their initial brief and turning it into a project. So that's kind of my background, and how I got into property was pretty much, so I did my first buy to let, which was a 4-bed HMO. It was a couple of years ago now. And it's interesting because I designing and seeing that project realized myself and having that ultimate creativity is what kind of spurred me on to continue with property, really, because in an office environment you do have some creativity, but it's the client, it's the client's choice, and it's the client's brief that you have to meet. Whereas with this, I got to design it myself. I got to see it on site, contribute to project management and organisation of the construction process, which I never normally got to do that much in practice. And it really allowed me to be able to see that finished product, within 2-3 months of the renovation. And I just absolutely fell in love with it, and that's kind of started me on my journey to continue doing that. That's how I started doing it for other people. Like investors, and that's kind of how Kove started. So me and Jez Wood, we joined forces about 6 months ago now, and then that's how kind of Kove started. So Kove is pretty much it's like a hands-free property and development solution service, essentially. So we design, build, develop high quality housing. We try to impact on people's lives. So it's just about like educating people as well. That's why we're so big on with the property meet, Kove Property Meet, and Kove Properties. We're always doing videos and stuff like that because we want to educate people on the property business, and show how it can be profitable but also sustainable and environmentally friendly as well. And that's kind of what we want to do. We kind of want to disrupt the property industry and be a bit different. That's the kind of plan. That's Kove, really.
And why property then? So I understand that you said that you had experienced already, like you've been working with a property, but are you seeking, the freedom a property can give you, or why did you decide that you want to go like full time in properties?
It's definitely the freedom, but also I love designing. I mean, I love being creative. So like for example, our recent project, we've sourced a project manager for an investor. We've chopped and changed and turned the 2-bed into a 3-bed and come up with a creative solution to add significant value on top of already the profit. And it's like that kind of thing of just being able to design freely to what I think's best. It's almost like a product. It's like I'm designing a product and then showcasing that product to someone and someone going, yeah, I love it, let's do it. Rather than in practice, you're quite prohibited, in architecture practice, you're quite prohibited to what you can do. And again, it's that kind of having that experience in the other stages and then enabling that to be able to build our own portfolio eventually, and to be able to, be financially free essentially is a fundamental goal as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, because for the beginners out there, deal packaging is a fantastic way of getting into a property, and it's a fantastic way of getting some money in and getting some some deals through and experience. However, if you wish to scale, every single deal packager eventually wants to start keeping the properties. So yeah, I completely understand, but it's a fantastic way of getting into the property when you're starting with zero or very little money as a deal packager. So that's why I think that your story will be very, very inspirational for those for the beginners out there. So shall we start with the main question of the podcast? Is how did you get your first package deal? Can you share with us?
The first package deal for me I was quite lucky in a sense that, in the sense that I had developer friends and business owners that they're in their 9 to 5, they were considerably busy. Was one business owner who was just working 70 hours a week, and he wanted to get into property and wanted that kind of hands-free service. So I kind of, as a friend, took that on. And that allowed, again, this is why deal packaging can be very, very beneficial, because it allowed me to gain a window into that kind of world of how not just how renovations work, but the whole process of the construction, the planning, the procedures, and there's so much to learn. On the first project, there was definitely mistakes that I made. Luckily, it was a friend, so it wasn't so bad. But it kind of iterates the fact. So, for example, I didn't anticipate how much of a job stripping wallpaper was. I know that sounds stupid, but this property had about 7 layers of wallpaper.
Oh wow!
Seriously,
wow,
yeah, it was ridiculous. Honestly, it was so thick, and at the time I just thought, oh, that'll be fine. I'll kind of budget in X amount of time. That shouldn't be too bad. Turns out it was quadruple the time that I thought it would have been.
Wow.
And then obviously it took away significant amounts of plaster work, and I accounted for that in the budget. So there was definite learnings upon that. And I think moving forward, after that, I kind of learned a lot from that, and I kind of put pen to paper and said, how can this process be better? And I think having a crib sheet and a checklist and understanding the cost and time implications of everything. So it's building your team. So like I said, that developer or business owner allowed, that connection, that relationship allowed me to then get my first project. So firstly it would be, tell people what you do, reach out and connect with people. So me and Jez actually met because Jez posted in a property group saying, I'm looking to invest in the Northeast. I need some advice. And I said, I'll come meet you and we'll have a pint and we'll chat. And I was literally just wanting to give advice. So I just told him where my kind of gold mine areas were,
Fantastic.
Just told him everything that I knew just to give value. And then we kept in contact. And then he said, oh, can you find me my first investment property? So that's how it started. He was going to be a client. And then we built relationships. We understood each other's strengths. And then that's how Kove started. So again, it's just that kind of thing of power team. Yeah, it's madness. It's absolute madness.
I love that.
It's just understanding that how important the networking is and telling people what you do. I was scared to even post things on my own Facebook about property, but now I'm annoying everyone now. I do it all the time, but
you're so natural at it as well. I do watch your journey, and you have videos popping up from you on every property page of the group I'm part of. You're on your personal Facebook. I see your face a lot. That's amazing. That's exactly what you want to do, just to get people see your face and hear what you're doing, and it's working. You're doing really well.
I'm a massive advocate of personal brand and business brand. I think it's so important, and I think if you document and I sometimes create as well because of my architectural background, so because I think that's valuable to people. But I think if you're getting yourself out there and you're providing value, it's just you help a friend out, a friend that helps you, and that's how things happen. And that's how Jez, my business partner, actually got into business with me, because he'd seen the videos I'd done, he'd seen the content that I'd been creating, and he knew that what I was about before he really even met me. Do you know what I mean? Well, properly got to know me. which is, and it just kind of iterates that fact that you should definitely be, breaking those barriers and just getting out there. Even if you don't know, it's weird because when me and Jez first started doing videos, Jez didn't feel like he could offer much to the table because he was like, oh, you've got your architectural background. I don't offer much. But I was like, Jez, we have meetings every morning and you're like teaching me stuff like every morning. Like,
you
I'm like,
have lots of knowledge.
You just need to get out. And he's like, it doesn't feel like it's valuable to him. And I'm like, you're like literally gold. Like, just get yourself out there, man. It's so true.
I know exactly. I have the same issues than Jess. I have the same issues. Like sometimes I go like, I have not much to offer, and then when I'm speaking to people, I'm like, I have more knowledge than I think than I thought.
Yeah, people do, and it's that thing. As soon as you learn something, like we're going to do a video next week based on we had a property that had significant damp issues. Ooh. And there's so many things that we learned. Like we literally shaved. We thought that. We won't get into it too much, but we thought that pointing, which is the cement in between the bricks, it was the water was getting through there, but it was actually getting through in a different area. And we saved £2,000 from pointing by having a specialist tell us what we needed to do. And it's that kind of thing, and that could, someone might have a similar sort of problem, and that video could then save them thousands. And it's just like so valuable.
Well done.
So my advice would be to and what I learned from my first project was to understand your power team. So builder, electrician, plumber, you need to be speaking to me. You need to get a crib sheet. Now, I wish someone told me this at the beginning of my deal packaging, journey. Get a crib sheet. When a crib sheet is basically like the services and the cost of every implication that could possibly happen on a project, right? So when you're pricing up a job, you've got to be when you're pricing up a project to then say, okay, we found this deal for an investor. It's X amount refurb. These are the pictures. These are the background information. If you get that refurb cost wrong, the client could hold you to that price. So, for example, if you say it's £10,000 and it goes over, the client's going to go, well, what? You said it was £10,000. And I think a lot of deal packages just go, oh, it's about this, it's about that, it's about this. And that's not how you should be doing it, because it can bite you in the butt later on. So I would say speak to your power team and go through with them, build that relationship. Even by doing this process, builds a relationship, and just say, we want to use you for every job that we're going to do moving forward. How much does this cost? How much does that cost? And just get a list of everything that could possibly happen, renovation-wise, possibly happen. Same with the electrician, same with the plumber on a project. And then when you do your numbers, accurately that's how much the final cost will be.
Amazing. I also, just to add for the beginners out there, I'd say also because for those who don't really know what power team means, as you said, get the numbers right from your electrician, from your builders, from your plasterers, etc. Yes. It's also with people like lawyers, someone who is responsible for the legal works, etc. So for those who don't really know what power team means, power team is everybody you need in order to purchase and complete the project fully. So anybody in regards to legal work or building work, that's your power team. And just to add as well, like I think we're also trying to say it's better to have a bit more the pricing a bit higher, but then in the end save money, then pricing a bit lower and then go over. So yeah.
We always put a 15% contingency on as well.
15.
So
that's
just in case, because you never know. Things can crop up. Exactly. And that's definitely a good point. But yeah, I think always be open and transparent. My first project, the biggest learning was, with this plaster, and also I didn't counter in boxing out the boiler, like creating a cupboard for the boiler.
Right.
And it's only small things, but these are additional costs that weren't accounted for. So I luckily it was my friend, so I went straight to him and said, look, these are the additional costs, and it was fine. And I'm glad I did that at the beginning. Now, if I tried to cover that up and it got to a later stage where he found out and he found that I wasn't being transparent and honest and ethical, then you could lose that client. And I think that repeat business is the best business you'll ever get. You just need one good client, and that could be your bread and butter. So once you
prove that you're good, and you are honest, and you can make him money. And I also find as well, talking to lots of people, is that if you make mistakes, or as you said, especially when it's your first one or something, and you do a wrong calculations or something, more honest you are with your investor, and more you keep him in the loop, bigger trust he actually builds, instead of if you're trying to hide it because, oh, I'll just find a way around it, I just want to deliver him the good news. As much as it sounds nicer that, oh, I just want to give my investor good news, actually, if you're keeping him in the loop, and if you're showing what mistakes you've done and then how you overcome them, that's actually can be a bigger value for the investor than if you just say, oh, this is our first project and everything just went fine. Do you see what I mean? Like, investor wants to see as well that when mistakes comes, how do you deal with it? Because that's very important, because the mistakes will come, you eventually going to grow. If you're starting with something small, eventually going to be doing, let's say, big massive commercial conversions or something, things going to go wrong always, and no matter what. So for investors, it's also important to see how the person who is looking after their money, how you deal with the situation when things go wrong. So it's really important to keep them in the loop.
Absolutely. And we've had that before, where there's been additional costs that we haven't seen, and we've won them round, and that's the kind of thing. It's that honesty and transparency, like you say. They really appreciate it, and it builds that trust moving forward, and that's the foundations to a good business, I think.
Amazing. So for the beginners there, so if the deal packaging, I know we should really say that in the beginning, but I will pop that in the episode description. So deal packaging, just in a very, very short way, briefly, it's based in the simplest way. You're like a middleman. You got an investor who's got the money to invest, and you found the property. You basically source the property for the investor, which is sourced. It's like a property sourcer, and then you can do it up, do the refurbs and everything, and do it and sell it to investor as a package deal. So that's just the most simple way to explain what deal packaging is.
Essentially, a hands-free service. So, like, for example, most of our investors are from London, and they don't have time to, do a project themselves, especially in the Northeast where they don't know where we're based. Yeah, so exactly. So it's just a hands-free service from sourcing the property, project managing it, bringing it to a letting agent to be let, and then helping them with all the process. I mean, we even help with the refinance side, any advice they need if they're a beginner or anything like that. So we help that kind of full circle. And it's that we don't work on necessarily mailing lists. It's kind of like one-to-one personal kind of relationships, because we feel it's a bit better, and we're only a small company, so we can enable us to do that. But that's essentially what it is. It's just that kind of hands-free service for people that are time poor, essentially.
And that's why we said that it's a fantastic way of getting into a property, especially if you have zero or very little of your own money, because you're the middleman basically to start with. So you're just making your life for investor much easier, and you make the money doubling, hopefully. Amazing. Right. So now you source the property, you are doing your refurbs, etc. So what was your first deal? You said was it a buy to let? You said
a buy to let. Yeah, it was just a small buy to let in Newcastle. It wasn't a massive project, but it still provided a lot of learnings, and I didn't want to start off above what I could handle. So
that's amazing. That's amazing. So what would you say that the deal packages have to do next? So you source the property, you found the investor, you have the property. Is there any like the legal works as well, or do you need to be compliant or anything like that? Because obviously what I know from you is that you and your business partner, you're doing different things in the business. So so you have which is absolutely fantastic. But just for the beginners out there, what sort of compliance do you need as a
So we kind of split the roles up between us. I mean, Jez is more finance and admin side, and I'm also like project planning, and I'm more construction, planning, as in planning and building control, and the design element as well, because there is sometimes we chop and change the layout. But in terms of compliance, like company compliance, there's a few things you need. Anti-money laundering is one from the HMRC. Professional indemnity and professional liability insurance. You need to be a member of either the Property Redress Scheme or the TPO. Can't remember what the TPO stands for.
The Property Ombudsman.
Yeah, that's it, Property Ombudsman. And then you need an ICO number, which is data protection. as
Yeah,
well.
absolutely.
Um,
All this in total. So these are just the minimum requirements you need. There's
yes,
if you look into if you look into that deeper, if you want to be like as a deal packager, like a serious deal packager, there's actually a bit more into it. But these are the basics which you really need if you want to start. And
yeah,
I know that the fees went up like last year roughly, just over a year ago I think, and it's like around £1,300 to become a fully compliant a deal sourcer, deal packager. So for those out there, like I know that we were saying that starting with zero or little money, but this is this sort of investment you do need to get in order to be safe if you want to do it. However, that can be paid within the first deal you do.
yeah,
So deal packaging can, that can pay you back this investment after the first deal, and then you can continue.
yeah.
Right. So
Awesome.
what are your other tips would you recommend to the beginners out there? What sort of things you learned from the
Yeah,
project? I'm very
definitely. Yeah, I would say I've got a few little pointers. So I'd say don't be shy. I think I've reiterated that before, but definitely reach out to people and build relationships. So just start posting. Just start posting on Facebook. Start getting yourself out there. I mean, if you're liking what if you see my videos, give me an ad. Like just add people, speak to people. Just start building connections. If you see someone posting in a group that that they're in your area and they need they're looking for advice or they just want to meet for a chat, definitely to send them a message. It's revolutionized what's happened with me personally. And second, I think another tip would be to treat it like a business. Don't treat it like a site. If this is what you want to do, I mean, yes, people. I mean, I've still been done this business through working full time, but you definitely still have to treat it as a business. It's not like a little side hustle where you can't spend much time on it. You need to spend the time and the effort on it. So one thing that we do is that we did from the beginning, which is actually an interesting thing because Jez was like, we need to go through our business values and we need to spend like 4 hours going through what our core values are. Actually, it was longer. It was like 6 hours. And I was just like, this is a waste of time. We need to be, because we only had a finite amount of time every week with working full time. And I was like, we need to be doing like income generating tasks. We need to be getting deals. We're doing this. He's like, this is important. We need, and at the time I didn't really think it was. And now I'm like, man, that was so fundamental. Like understanding what your core values are and like just knowing your like how your company works and what your company's about. It's just so important.
And that you have the same vision, because if you don't have a vision, you don't know where to like go basically. So if you don't have the destination, how do you know how to get there? So it's amazing. Yeah, that's a really, really good point. Really good point.
And also start building your brand. I think I mean, as you can tell, I just think brand is massive. I mean, I've been watching a lot of Gary Vee recently and like just if anyone's interested in brand, I would definitely say start watching some of his videos because he's just insanely intelligent and clever. And he just documents everything and that's what you should be doing. It's personal brand is more important than sales, and it shouldn't be underestimated, definitely. No. So I would say, start documenting, start creating content where you can. So like, for example, like and with brand and stuff, it's like understanding how do we get investors? So we have demographics of the type of investors that we're looking for, and it's like, how do we target those? So we figure out what our core values are, what our content is, and generate it around those kind of demographics, which allows us to target people in a less salesy way. But it's with brand, it's so much more authentic, and it builds those relationships better. And then my last point would be systems and processes. I mean, I kind of briefly talked about that. So, get a CRM for people who don't know what CRM is, a customer relations manager. Get something that kind of, even if it's just Excel for the beginning of a data sheet where you can input your data so you know what's going on, you're organized, you've got stuff to fall back on. I mean, for us with properties, we have a list of properties that we follow up on. So for example, the vendor might say, oh, well, there's a mortgage on this property. Let's say it's listed for 60,000. And we say, we would offer, say, we ring them up and gauge their, what what's the reason for selling? Well, there's £58,000 on the mortgage. They're not going to accept less, considerably less. Whereas if they're motivated to sell, they might be willing to accept less. But if they aren't willing to accept less, then we'll flag it up for later. And that follow up, that procedure, it's all about the processes, in terms of that. So I would say definitely CRM, deal finding process to find deals.
So but just for the beginners out there, just to add, when you were talking about the CRM system, it's what's called pipelines for the beginners out there. So pipelines are so important, as you said. In your CRM system, you can have information like information about your investors, about your clients, and about the properties, as you said. So you can have a different categories, and you can have properties from estate agents, like let's say Rightmove, where there's a rule, isn't it? Like they have estate agencies, their contract with any landlord is 3 months. If you don't sell the property, they can renew it, but it's the 3 months. So if you know that, as you said, you found this property and it's, let's say, £60,000, which that's probably just up north where you are. Down here, £60,000 maybe for half of room. So we are in a very different part of UK. But yeah, let's go with 100,000. So just as a random. So the property costs 100,000 now. If you make an offer for 80,000 and the landlord say no, you put that property, that link into your pipeline in your CRM system, and you set it up, let's say, in the 3 months time. In 3 months time, you got this little pop-up that, right, this property, try again. You go back again. If it's still there, this is what gives you the sign that the seller might be motivated. So yeah, it's just important for those beginners out there.
And you'll be surprised about how many deals you can actually get from the follow-up. It's quite surprising, and it's quite a nice surprise, I suppose, in the future. But sometimes this takes 3-5 months. So if you don't have those systems in place, then you're going to miss out on those types of deals. I'm not saying you definitely need a CRM for beginners. Maybe just a spreadsheet is good enough for a beginner, but it's definitely good to start thinking like that. Start thinking for growth and to be a business, start thinking at the end in mind. And then the other thing I would say is investor acquisition. So finding investors, and I kind of iterated that before about understanding the demographics. So I wanted to talk about Gary Vee again, because he's got a really good example. So when he first started, he did a wine show, which was like a wine, like talking about reviewing wines. And his dad had a wine sold wine bottles as a business, and he reviewed them on YouTube and built his kind of content on that for that demographic. It's a really clever way of doing it. But he at the time, everyone just thought he was being wacky, but he had he interviewed people from the Knicks in America. He interviewed like exotic florists and like people involved in root beer and all sorts of weird, really weird companies. And in his interview, he said all that was targeted. That was like, I understood my demographic of who drank wine. I did it I narrowed it down to these types of demographics from data. And I knew that some of these people would be interested in these things. So I brought them on the show so that then their viewers watched my show and then bought wine. And it's just like, that's that kind of thing of really delving into those type of, who are they? Where do they come from? Yeah. And I think that's a really good thing. And so we use Facebook lead generation. So Facebook ads. We use a variety of different techniques to, as well as content, to try and get our investors. So it's good to think about that as well as a process.
Good point as well. Facebook.
Yeah, and again, just I've put understand the construction and project management process. And again, when you talked about power team and getting those people in place, when you're talking about what the cost implications are for each thing, maybe talk them through what's first and second fix, what's the process involved in a refurb, what happens from start to finish. Don't be shy. Ask them and write it all down and digest it and really get to an understanding of it.
Amazing. Fantastic. Wow, you are full of great tips for the beginners out there.
Yeah.
Definitely. So, Daniel, do you have any books, for example, you would recommend to read or listen to for the beginners? Like anything property or mindset related? Because also this, obviously, mindset is really important in the property business.
I've got two. So first one is Rob Dick's How to Be a Landlord. Now that's not motivational, but it's I read that 2 years ago and it really helped me. Just in terms of like, yeah, it's in terms of like, you know, what does it mean to be a landlord? What do you need to do to be a landlord? Talks about buy-to-lets, HMOs, all the different types of strategies, but it mainly talks about your first project, your first buy-to-let, the process from start to finish in terms of letting as well, which I didn't know about the letting side, if I was honest, when I first started out. So it was good to really understand the whole process, how it works in really simple terms. So I really, really advise that as a book. The second one would be...
I need to get this book because I'm going to rent to HMOs now. So.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, it's really good for that. It'll be really good for
my new read. Thank you for the advice. Yeah, what's your second book?
No, it's good. And the second one, this is more mindset. It's quite a common book, but it's called Power of Now. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Power of Now, yes.
Power of Now. So that, for me, that really helped me because I'm naturally a worrier. I do worry about stuff. And it's kind of like, the premise of the book is be in the now. So we usually base, in our minds, we sometimes base experiences on the past and the future. So we think about things that haven't happened yet. So, you know, an altercation with a friend, you think, well, if they say this, I'm going to say this, or they might say this to me. You're thinking about something that hasn't happened. You're wasting time on something that hasn't happened. Yeah. And it evokes thinking about that situation, then evokes emotion, which then evokes that kind of anxiety, which makes you feel negative. So one, it's really helpful not to try and be in the now, enjoy the moment and not think about those things. I know it's easier said than done, but he gives you processes in able to deal with that.
Yeah.
And then secondly, not to dwell on the past as well. So like thinking about past experiences and letting that evoke emotion, which then that gives you in a negative mindset. And I suppose all that time that you're thinking of these things, you know, thinking of things that haven't happened, thinking of things that have already happened, you're wasting time and productivity. And you're also evoking negative feelings. So it's all about that kind of positive mindset, making good use of your time. And it's a really, really, really good book.
I love that when you said about your past and then, you know, like what you want to achieve. So there's another day I saw, you know, when you have those little Facebook jokes or like a little picture motivational little post.
Yeah.
And there was a picture of a person with himself, but like tied up, that like on the floor, curled up in the floor and chained to your leg. So there was two of you basically, one standing up and one curled up on the floor, and that they were chained to his. And it was basically showing that if you are attached to your past, it's going to be much harder for you to get to desired future. And it's showing like the picture was the person trying to like get out, you know, to this future you're desiring, but your past is holding you back. And it's just showing, not just basically let go of your past in order to become a person you want to be.
Yeah, no, it's a good point.
That's a good one. I love that. That book. I need to listen to this book again. I listened to it like long time ago, so I need to go back to that one. Great advice. Now, Daniel, I always ask every single guest on my show, for those who want to watch something, do you have anything to recommend to watch? Either a documentary or your favorite movie, and again, either property or mindset related, anything what you watch and go like, right, that is a great one.
I don't have a documentary per se, but I do. We talked about it briefly. There's a thing on YouTube. If you type in Gary V consultation, what he does is he has a round table, and he documents everything he does. But he has a round table, and it's usually like an hour long, and it's just companies from all different areas presenting their problems, and he will just give you 10 minutes per company and tell you what he would do. I mean, he's very successful in these multiple businesses. And and it's honestly, like, you would think that you would have to pay to watch that video because the value he gives, some of the stuff that I've got from those type, because there's about 100 of them. Some of the videos, some of the content that I've got from that has actually revolutionized Kove. So I would really suggest watching it. There's, you know, it's, if you type in like Gary V roundtable or Gary V consultation, it'll come up.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's honestly, some of the advice on that is really fantastic. And it's that kind of problem solving, debate kind of, you know, chat between many successful people. And it's really good to know. And it's more focused on brand, but that relates to everything really. So I would definitely advise that. It's really, really useful.
Great, that's amazing. I'm looking forward to that. I need to start watching this. You know what's really cool, Daniel, about your recommendation is that this is my episode number 9 now, and you're the first one who gave me something else to watch or to read to. We had a lot of similar books, which is not a bad thing, because obviously
No.
the books they've been recommended, especially if they recommended several times, that really means something, like the beginners out there. If those books are being keep repeating, get them because people are recommending them for a reason. But also that was quite refreshing, having something new. That's amazing. So yeah, I'm looking forward to reading these books, and like the How to Be the Landlord, and then Gary Vee around the tables and all that. That's amazing. Right. So, do you have any other tips for those who are starting out, for those who are thinking about deal packaging, or did we cover everything? Is there anything?
I think we covered everything, but I think just the first step is to just. For me, it took such a long time to do my first post or my first video. I was just so scared that what people think, and I think being within the groups for so long. I mean, I've spoke at events now and stuff, and I think like it's such a friendly environment.
This is for the first time. That was the Blue Oak big one, no? On the event you were talking.
Yeah.
In person. Yeah, on the event you were talking. Yeah.
But that's that. I mean, I got to speak at an event based on my content, essentially. That was just from posting and adding value. And like people sometimes think, what do you achieve anything from it? It's all time consuming, and or again the negative thoughts of it's time consuming and people will judge me, and it's not. But you don't know what it unfolds. It unfolds credibility, connections, which then accelerates your business. Again, speaking events, stuff like that, reiterate that kind of fact. And it's just don't see it as a barrier. Just put, even if it's just a bit of text and a picture, just post something that you think's valuable, and you'll see the responses. And everyone's got such warm responses to everyone's content, and everyone's friendly. Everyone's it's weird because property is the only industry where everyone's kind of competitors, but yet we don't act like it. We help each other. That's what I like about property.
It's so true. It really is. It feels many times like a family. The groups, no, we are part of, like on the Facebook. Truly, people. You would think as well, no, it's a competition, but people actually want to help each other. They share content. They share paper or anything like this. It's just
I do. I literally everything that I spend hours and hours and hours and hours doing, I'll post. I've done that. I posted checklists. Everything.
Sorry.
No, that was it. Yeah.
And for those starting out, like you just had a good point. Even if it's just a picture with something you think that people might find valuable, or even if it's just a question, like I found another day I posted on one of the groups which I haven't posted for a while, and the question was about envelopes. So it was a picture. What color of envelopes you people found most responsive from direct to vendor letters? And let's face it, this sort of question could seem silly. But there's no silly questions in the property world, like 100%. And what I thought, like if I post something about like what color of envelope is good, like people can make me start thinking that I'm overthinking it, or I should start now and get perfect later. Why am I thinking like it's more about the content, not about the envelope? However, we all know that massive companies like Pepsi Cola, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, they spend lots of money on finding out what color makes people hungry. So red, for example, So there is a lot in the color of something. There's people spend millions of pounds on studying marketing, and what I found out is that I don't want to overthink it, because obviously the letter is the more important, not the envelope. However, envelope it plays a huge role, because if people don't open your envelope, the letter can be amazing as it can be, it's going to go in the bin. So the envelope have to be open. And it's such a silly question like that, even like what color of envelopes, it got people talking, and people genuinely were advising. Like, for example, some people's opinion,
and engaging.
The what? Sorry.
and engaging as well with you.
Yeah. And but honestly, I had a couple of people send me a message privately saying, "Oh, Lenka, just don't overthink it. It's just a color." And I'm thinking, well, I am not overthinking it. I already ordered my colors anyway because I ordered my envelopes. But I just thought, let's just have a little chat what people found from their own experience, you know. And I received some amazing feedback, things which I didn't even think about. Like for example, Sam Spencer gave me an advice saying, sometimes it depends on the season of the year, which is I found interesting. Also in the summer, maybe for something happier like yellow or orange, and in the winter maybe blue. Like it's quite interesting point as well, isn't it? And I wouldn't think of it. So even what I'm trying to say for the beginners out there is that even if you think you have a silly question, there is no silly question. Just ask, because people were thinking a similar thing once. Like I guarantee you, many of the silly questions we have, someone had those questions either in their head or publicly as well.
And I think join as many groups as you can and engage. So we run Kove Property Meet, but at the moment we're doing webinars. So we've got a webinar on the 28th. We've got a couple of really good speakers. We've got TED Talks, and we've got a GB athlete who's now a developer. He does commercial conversions, and we're having breakout rooms in the which we've never done before, but it's like where it goes into clusters of like 4 or 5 people that you don't know, might not know, and it engages people to chat for half an hour.
Amazing.
So it's almost like meeting people in a room, but obviously on video camera. And it, so if you're new and you want to meet people, join that and just have a chat with some people. It's just totally random. It creates groups randomly, and just engages a bit of chat, so you get to know people and you get to build relationships that way as well as getting advice. So that's on 28th. So if you follow Kove Properties and Kove Property Meet, it has all the information on there.
Cool. I'm gonna add that to the post today as well. Kove Property. I'll get the full information from you and I'll add it to the post. And then I'm not sure if the podcast will be out before that. Hold on, it's 25th. Not sure if I manage because we are doing house swap tomorrow, but I will pop that in the post I do today. So nice one. Who wants to join, and I will try my best to join as well. It's just that last time I looked, I was not available on that day because of everything was going on at the moment with a house swap extra job, and with my work and etc. But I will try my best to be there because I would love to be there.
Thank you.
So 100%.
Awesome.
So that's amazing, guys. You're doing fantastically well, and as I said, that it's really, really, really inspiring to watch your journey. I love watching your journey. You and Jess, you're doing great. Your content, and I can, from what I like when I'm watching your video, is that you genuinely do seem genuine and someone who cares. And when I have a lot of money and when I'm a real investor, as a real big investor, you are one of those people who I'll be like, you're building the trust. Do you see what I mean? Then I will be like, right, I would give you the money. There you go, and turn it into more. Do you know what I mean? It's like, so it works. Like you get a great feeling from you guys. Oh, that's amazing. So I think we covered pretty much everything. This was really inspirational. Lots of value you added today. I bet that the beginners out there, and even not beginners, but the ones who are starting or thinking about doing the packaging from a different strategy they have at the moment, I'm sure they will find this really useful. So Daniel, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I'm wishing you all the best for all your projects and everything, and I'm looking forward to see more of your journey. And you're doing great, guys. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.